back again this week, post Thanksgiving. It's a Wednesday recording, not a Monday recording. The messy middle. What are we talking about this week? I think we're doing updates. Is it relaxation and rest, or rest and relaxation? Was that our theming, or burnout? Not like how to handle burnout. And
I like that topic.
yeah, I think that'd be fun. And then some other fun anecdotes maybe at the end, and then what we're thinking about. Because it's end of the year. I'm sure we're going to be doing some fun end of the year conversations over the next couple of episodes. Franck, you just got back from France. Franck the Frenchman, who really is American. But how was it? What did you see? What was the AI world like in Paris?
I have no idea. I went there if I put on aside personal reason, that was the first time, we went to our office, we met with a team, hiring people, onboarding people. It's that phase when you just close your seed round. So I was pretty busy with that, and
Well, you feel good. Did you feel good?
Oh yeah.
And did you feel good about it?
Of course. I guess in general, I'm the wrong person to ask anything, about how's the city and how's life and all these events. Like I usually don't go to events. I just focus on, whatever work I'm doing, and it's pretty simple. But anyway, so I'll, if we talk more about our personal update, or I guess what we're working on, I'll detail that later.
I mean, we're kind of talking about it now.
Sure.
But
you have to help me with specific questions then.
Okay.
What are you guys curious about?
What are we curious about? Well, I'll go to Teddy first. So how was your week, and then I'll come back to what I'm curious about with Franck, and I'm sure Teddy, you might have a question or two.
It was a good week for me. Took it slow because of Thanksgiving. Spent some time with friends. And then I was mostly working. I'm in that work mode right now, which I really like. Focused and it's mostly code, nothing really that fun that I can share. But yeah, AI related stuff. So friends, family, and code.
And the coding projects, that's everything with Enzyme, G6, or neither?
Well, I can't really share at this point. It's probably between those two, but yeah, I can tell more in some of the other episodes, and definitely would love to talk about some things and bounce off some ideas with you guys.
You can't
after
share.
this thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go. We'll leave it there. Franck, so you've got the team.
No. If we follow the process, you kind of have to answer a question to yourself, right? Which is
I have to answer it. How was my week? Thanksgiving was fantastic. I like to theme these years. I'm a weirdo, right? I do like these 5-year plans. And I'll answer this question every day. But this year is the year of change and celebration. So we had a lot of celebrations last week. And I'm assuming the changes are going to happen. I mean, it's been changes the whole year. But for me, it's been a little bit more challenging because it's like, okay, it's the end of the year. I'm having a ton of conversations with entrepreneurs about what they're working on or whatever. Second-time entrepreneurs figuring it out. And I haven't come up with anything yet that I'm excited about. But making progress. I think the most important thing is to know that I'm having the conversations and actually getting up in the morning, working out, fixing my schedule, and we booked all of our holiday travel plans, so that's fun. So it's focusing on that as well. So I don't want to say it was a boring week, but I definitely was not totally thrilled with every single day. But I feel better today. We're having a conversation, so that's fun. It's very uplifting,
Cool.
Okay, so why don't we take that and and those are kind of our updates of where we're at. I think it's a slow time of the year. It's either recapping everything, for all of us and our all of our endeavors at the end of the year, or it's trying to actually close out some business. But I don't think any of us are trying to. Frank, you closed out the round for Alexis. You guys are growing, and Teddy, the continuation of coding. And for me, it's just making sure I don't go insane. Um, so rest, relaxation, that was something we were discussing last week on the topic of burnout. I think I don't want to say it was a trend for a while to discuss entrepreneurial burnout. When was that, Frank? Those articles that came out with Inc. was like, oh, every entrepreneur is mostly depressed, or
Maybe
you
2012,
need,
I guess,
I
2013,
think so,
maybe
right? Yeah, yeah. So,
10 years ago.
I think so like coming off of that and now reflecting on it now, in this messy middle period, you really need to rest a little bit. Like even though it's against our nature. So, I mean, what do you guys think about that? Like, I can talk about my experience, but we can do that at the end. So, like,
Yeah, I
Frank,
mean, I can, sure. We, I think I'm weirdly right now, I'm starting to get some clarity. I think there's a couple of things. I always think, not always, but I guess part of the way I think when I think about organization or individuals, or when I try to think about things in an abstract way, I like to think about an organization, as like a circle with a vector, and the vector is the direction of it. And that organization is made up of a sum of people's vector. So if it goes all the way, then the organization is not moving. If the little arrows are pointing in the same direction, then everything's moving there. When you're in
hmm
between, and if you look at yourself, I guess the reason it's the messy middle is because you're kind of wondering where your arrow should be pointing towards. And when you move, it's kind of like a video game. It kind of uses energy, and then you get depleted because you keep moving in every direction, and you don't really find what's your direction, and then your burnout is when you had zero energy. But the thing is, the way you get energy is by meeting other people, and you're like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and then they kind of pull you, and that gives you energy. And the paradox, I think, is that's what Sam Altman actually was talking about recently, and I listened to it carefully because it's something we all know about, which is when you meet people in a public gathering, you have to say what you're working on. And as soon as you say you're working on nothing and you're resting, then the outcome of that is people will leave you, because they don't see anything they can interact with you. They don't see anything you can do with. And so the paradox is you're being punished for trying to recharge. And I think it's important to realize that, and it's important to, I guess, even myself, like when I talk with you guys, I'm like, I'm rarely going to say I have no idea and let's do nothing. Let's just rest, or I'm doing nothing this week. Like there's always this sense of you have to do something, you have to be moving, because moving is life. And it's really hard to tell, but it's also, I think it's hard for the other side to receive something as obvious to say, I don't know, and it will take some time. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month. But what I know from personal experience, from doing that many times, is one day you wake up and you've got that direction again, and then you go back to moving, and then you refit into society because people tell you, what do you do? You say, I do that. And I think this
Do you
messy
do
middle
you
is very difficult in terms of how do you accept that you don't know? How do you how do you how do you isolate yourself, and how do you go through this phase where you're like, I can't stress, and I should not stress about that thing, and I really have to recharge, because if I don't recharge, it's going to be a forever fake moving. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's my vision of it.
I mean, do you think there's like an element of not, I mean, you discuss this, it's a feeling of guilt sometimes when you want to take rest, you feel guilty
I don't think it's
for
guilt. I think
resting.
again, it's very real, because the feedback loop you've got is people don't want to talk to you.
Right.
it's not abstract, you know, it's not, you're not punishing yourself. It's society is punishing you. It's like you're, you know, so it's not, I don't think it's like, oh, I'm punishing myself, you know, for doing nothing. You know,
And
it's because you're, you know, you're not, we're not influencers, you know, so we're not getting traction from being like, hi, I'm in Bali and I made $1 million. You know, you're getting traction from telling people, what are you working on? And this is all I can help you, or this is all you can help me. And so when you're not in that phase, you know, you have to, I think, honestly, I think the more I think about it, I think the best thing you can do is just hide. Don't talk to anyone. You know, maybe a couple of friends,
uh,
but I think it seems that's the best strategy to tell everyone, disappear from everything, and you know, that's it.
I don't know. I
I
disagree
think
with
that's
the
a
disappear.
Hmm.
Teddy,
I think for
you go.
no for I think for me that's a interesting good approach. And what Frank said, this analogy of vector looking for energy, I don't agree with that in that sense. I think it's more you talk to people and they give you maybe direction, they pull you inside direction, you get some velocity, but not really energy. It's I think rest is something different. You're not getting that energy from just being pulled in random directions. I think it's fine for at least from my experience to just take some time off and kind of disconnect and be intentional about it. Because if you
What
don't,
does
you
that
will be
mean?
pulled in different directions and you'll end up just again in a much larger cycle of like finding your direction. What does
Wait,
that
so
mean? You mean the
the
rest, the
disconnect,
resting,
the
the
disconnect, and the
disconnect?
resting.
Yeah.
Give
Well,
us an
mhm.
example.
I would love to, but I don't know. I would love to be able to disconnect fully. Uh, it probably means, first of all, the big issue is social, like not being social networks, but also social gatherings. So not being, not participating in those activities, like delete probably your Instagram profile, just because there are other things that are coming out of that of those social activities, like comparing to other people, like trying to figure out where you stand in relation to where these other people are. So I think this is really a key thing to not end up in that position, deleting your social. And that doesn't mean going somewhere far and in the forest and in a house, disconnect from the world. It just means that you sort of change your environment, surround with something that's completely different. I don't know, maybe family, or find some other work passion that you love. And I believe that's the way how you're going to find your next thing, basically, by just trying to spend time on some things that you're not probably intentional about, you're just playing. Include some playfulness, I think it's the other thing. Yeah, those are
And have you done
probably
have you done this before?
some of it. Not really disconnecting from social, but I think I'm good in I'm becoming better in not using all of the platforms that I used before, and I can clearly tell it's healthier. We talked about this phenomenon of sharing competitor products when you work on something,
Yes.
also for that reason. So definitely just disconnect from social networks. And like, I don't answer my phone. I don't actually I have the phone, but I don't ever answer any like calls or texts that are like from unknown people. So that social disconnect, it's really important. So I'm doing part of it, but not fully. We can do much better job. In terms of playfulness and having proper rest, I don't think I've done a good job. Like even this weekend was an
Why?
example. I was trying to like sort of enjoying the Thanksgiving long weekend, but then on the other side, I was feeling this guilt feeling that I'm not making progress. And also because end of year typically for me is working time. I can focus more while others are celebrating. I think it's a good time to just do some more work and maybe discover some other things. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why I haven't done it. And I even work with like
I think
people
because
to
it's hard.
become more playful. Yeah.
I,
Guilt is one thing for sure. Yeah, I don't know. What are some other things that?
Look, I like to always look at examples from my life, from other people's life. From Frank likes to send videos on Instagram to me with this concept of rest a lot of the time. Because I think an experience that I can sort of think of, and where I disagree on the social side is I like to be social. I'm obviously very extroverted, and I get my energy from meeting new people, from talking with friends. But my energy also gets depleted when I'm talking with people that obviously I need to sell something to, and that conversation is transactional. So, I during this process have been speaking with a lot of new people, and at the end of their conversations, like, "Oh, what are you working on? What can I help with?" And a lot of the times I say, "Look, I don't have anything that you can help with yet, but once I do, I would love to reach out again." And I think, it's my difficulty that I'm experiencing during this rest period is how not to compare, but then also how to utilize the network that I've built to maintain relevance there. So I think rest and relaxation is extremely important, but I think relevance is also important. And um, there was an entrepreneur that I spoke with who was like, "Oh yeah, you definitely become less relevant over time if you don't, jump back in." And he's like, "It's like an 18-month window." That's what he said. It's like 18 months. I don't know if I agree or disagree I've never actually done something. I've never actually stepped out of the game for more than 18 months. I would say the longest in between period I've ever had was 12 months. Um, and I was actively meeting a lot of people. And I think like looking at the rest period during COVID, I don't know if you guys had similar experiences during COVID. It was extremely stressful and challenging dealing with, you know, COVID in a whole, but also it felt like you had a reset. Like it was an ability to actually almost reset. Like, cause I sold my startup at the end of 2019 and then I didn't start the SPAC until November 2020, like officially. So that's like a full year. And I was able to rest because I felt like, oh, the world reset. It's fine. And now it's like, oh my God, everybody's working on all this amazing stuff. So how do I rest? And I think it's obviously through this podcast, we're enjoying these conversations. I think these are very cathartic and therapeutic, but also they add value in sort of resting, even though we're actually working. And I think taking care of yourself, health, family, friends. But it's a hard topic because I don't know if we fully believe that we need to rest, even though we are resting.
Yeah, I don't think we believe either, but longer term, there's a lot of proofs that this cliche that's it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's true. You have to take a break. You have to exercise, for example. As boring as it sounds, if you're not into exercise, you have to do it if you want to be there longer term, or if you want to be part of this game longer term. And I'm constantly battling with this, but there are people out there that are really good and having this willpower to do these boring things just because it gives you more energy longer term. And that's why, by the way, I think AI won't replace us, because they don't have this sort of willpower to do bad things or boring things over a prolonged period of time, so you can then reap the benefits after a couple years. And I think we are good at that. We just need to find that sort of inspiration, motivation, whatever, discipline, force, some sort of force, or Franck call it energy, or whether it comes from other people or from something else. And I think it's true. You probably are more extroverted and I'm probably more introverted, and I'm draining that energy from getting that energy from actually being quiet and just writing code, and for you is talking to people. So maybe that's your type of rest.
And travel.
But yeah,
I love to travel.
Travel works for me too. Yeah.
Franck, what about I mean, we're talking about rest and this idea of resting, slowing down to speed up, and then having like your idea become like whatever you work on next, come through through your interests. Like it's like I actually have no clue what I'm going to work on next, right? And it's pretty scary staring into the abyss. But I also have some weird belief that it'll happen. Something will happen. It'll come together. Um, it's kind of scary. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I feel like now I'm in this phase of clarity, and the exercise is to find, these things you're looking for. What's the direction? And the thing I always know, and it's difficult to get there, but we do know the answers to these questions. So again, my strategy is of twofold. One is learning. So I can't wait to relearn all these things. That's what excites me, just to be able to go to a coffee shop, read papers, read news, play with the technology, kind of get to know what people have been working on, what's the direction, and what I can do. And the second one is kind of look back into what I've got excited. And so the thing I was mentioning is we do know what excites us. Like recently, I remember someone reached out to do some teaching, and that got me excited. To you, someone reached out, and proposed you like to make some money, and that got you excited. And so again, whenever you're lost, and you might have zero energy, but there's going to be this burst of excitement. And to me, they're very good indicators of towards where you should be going. That's you scanning, and suddenly there's light. The light might go away because the light was moving, and unfortunately, you didn't get that thing. But I feel like that's a good indicator, which is, oh, wait a second, maybe I would just like having a stable income, or oh, wait a second, like maybe I would like to teach. And so that this burst of energy has to be integrated into that. And again, you understand that I'm not really very emotional about my process. I try to make it like almost as a process, but I keep going back to, I see this circle, I see this arrow, the arrow turns, and then the arrows start to move towards something without using any energy. Because sorry, about something else, right? Which is depletion of energy comes from moving in directions where there's no light. But as soon as you find light, not only you move, but your energy increases at the same time. It's kind of a weird thing.
I agree. I mean, I don't disagree there. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, which is you feel the chemicals in your brain, and you're like, oh, that's a good feeling. Like, it's it's like you just got a really nice piece of cake, and you're like, okay, I'm so excited about this. And what's so crazy is, and this is again part of the rest experience. What's so crazy is you could be miserably depressed, and you're in your rest period, and you're upset, and then like you see some light, and something happens, and it flips the switch, and you're like, oh, I'm so excited. I can't, I can't hold it in. And I think we all know what that experience is. And it's hard to pinpoint when that's, yeah.
I would add, and I'm not sure about what I'm about to say, but it's important not to be delusional. No, but it's important not to be delusional, right? Which is, if you go back to this Ikagi, and what am I good at? What do I want to do? What has an impact in the world if you want to have that part? And what gets you paid? I'm going to go to an extreme, but for example, I'm thinking about Teddy. Teddy, I know you're super excited about the future of health, and I'm like, I'm not. I like that subject too, but I'm like, do I know anything about the future of health? Like, what's my level? What am I good at that? And the reason I don't go there is because I feel like the amount of energy I would have to move towards that direction would require me to kind of go back to study or to become really, really good at something, because I'm competitive, and so I want to be in the top. My counter example to my own thing would be I don't know shit about hotels, but then we're going to do Airbnb. So I'm not sure what's the difference between people not believing in you or where you believe enough in yourself. So I'm not sure what's the right equation, but the example I can think of is the number of people I need to say, I'm going to revolutionize the way blah, blah, blah work. And I'm like, no, you're not, because you're just an average Joe, and there's no fucking way you're going to be able to achieve something that difficult. And so I'm like, I'm self-aware about what I can achieve and what I cannot achieve. And I do have, of course, like a little bump about, I'm going to do this insanely difficult thing, but I do believe I can do it. And if I believe that's good enough. And usually when I believe in myself, that's good enough to achieve it. But there's also plenty of people who are totally delusional, and they're just going to end up with no cash, forever thinking they're going to do that. And they have this energy of being happy to say they're going to do this thing, but they never do it. So it's a difficult thing to solve.
Yeah, on the delusion point, we've met a bunch of people who can be deluded. I've very rarely met anybody who, I mean, there's some people who I can absolutely tell you where I go into the meeting and I'm like, these people are crazy.
Yeah, none of us are delusional, hopefully.
No. So, and I think there's only usually one delusional person that can make something so successful, right? You've got an example, Steve Jobs, right? But the difference, his delusion.
He's not delusional.
Worked.
He wasn't delusional. When was he delusional?
It was no, not delusional, but it's a reality distortion field, which is different than delusion.
But that's a big difference. He's not delusional. He was not delusional. He was very, very precisely the right guy to lead everything. People might perceive him as delusional. That's something else.
Right. Okay. So there's a perception that Steve Jobs is delusional, and people take that perception and they take the idea of the reality distortion field and they apply it to what they're working on.
And sorry, by the way, I'm excited. When I'm excited, I don't want to cut that. Just to add to that, it's the Peter Thiel thing, 0 to 1, right?
We finally got Franck excited because he's tired. 3 days. I was like, there's low energy.
No, but hold on. So the one thing I want to add to that is actually that's the sweet spot, right? The sweet spot is when people think you're delusional and you know you're not. It's the Peter Thiel, like what do you know that no one else knows? And when you're at that spot, that's good. When everybody thinks you're insane and you know you're not, that's good. But it's the same thing with Startup Weekend, guys like, hey, we're going to do Startup in a weekend. Everybody say, no, you're not. It's impossible. And you've been through that, with all of our ventures, I guess, I've been through a point of that. And so
with all of us,
that's right. It's like people think you're delusional, you know you're not. And when you're that's high growth. And if you're excited about what you're doing and you're in that phase, then it's amazing. I love that phase. I love when everybody thinks you're never going to make it and you know you're going to make it and then you'll make it. Yeah. What sucks is to be in the phase where you believe you're not delusional, but you actually are. And so that's the paradox, right? Which is the indicator of a shitty startup is exactly the same as a great one.
It really doesn't help our sort of conversation around rest to mention be careful of the delusions. But I think
it does because I mean my conclusion is we don't need rest. The truth is we need energy. We need to find that thing.
So we need energy. So Teddy, so you like took us on that woo meditation stuff when we were in Detroit. So
crystals.
The reality,
just regular meditations.
I know, but like I'm remembering that and sitting there and I'm thinking like that is an element of rest for you. So again, every episode or step in this messy middle process, we like to provide some like tangible things you can do. I think meditation for you is one of them, because I don't actually know what it was like prior to that, and what put you into that zone to go do that and say, okay, I need to take, even if it's a rest of 5 minutes during the morning, to help you get through the day or something. I don't actually know the context there.
There's, by the way, construction going on here, so I don't know if
is that construction. We can hear you, but we don't hear the construction so much.
Apologies to everyone listening.
No, good job.
I think the meditation it's mainly it's more like I'm doing something for myself. It's not necessarily the meditation as a tool, but I'm consistent in doing something every day. That's the whole point for me. It may be, again, exercise, or maybe you have some, like you walk somewhere in the park outside, whatever it is. For me, the meditation is more like I have this habit. It's 5-10 minutes a day, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on a day. But I just know that I did something for myself. That's the whole point. And then you find peace in that, I guess. After some time, you become you are the meditator, the person who meditates, whatever it's called. So you're becoming that person, and it's just like a new acquired habit.
Has it helped?
It does. I think there are different benefits, but the sole purpose for me was just to have this one thing that I'm doing every day. And yeah, I guess, I mean, we can talk about benefits, proven, non-proven, but it comes down for
everybody
sure.
talks about that.
Yeah, we don't want to be that podcast for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, look, I so cheesy. I have a gratitude journal that I started doing. Frank's just gonna laugh that I got a gratitude journal, and I actually don't like it. But it's nice to like write these thoughts down. And today I'm like, oh, I feel good today. I don't know why, but I wrote it down in the gratitude journal. So I've enjoyed doing that. I mean, I work out 3 times a week. I'm the skinniest person alive, so it's not like I'm working out for muscles, but I definitely work out. I have lots of conversations with friends every day. I probably have at least one conversation with a good friend. I hang with family, and I'm traveling. I mean, there's not really much else. It's not. And then I'm, as what Frank was saying on the energy side, I'm going towards what interests me. And
yeah,
I have like a call next week with a group that runs some sort of startup studio, and they're looking for a CEO. I'm not going to take the role, number one. But I was like, you know what? Let me at least take the call with the guy, because it's a new connection and they're a decent startup studio. And let me cross it off my list. So I think that's important during the rest time as well, is to sort of like go through the process of crossing things off.
You don't have to say I wouldn't take the job. I mean, you don't know. And is that like, do you say that because you feel like it's diminishing? Like, maybe I'm going to take a job in the startup studio. I again feel about how good it felt like to have like 10K or 20K or 30K. It's like, and do a startup studio. I don't know. I would keep it open. Like,
yeah, but it felt
as we say in French,
sure,
never say never.
Sure, True. Yeah. As they say in English too, never say never. But yes, I look, it's not that I wouldn't do it. It's that the reason why I felt good with that 10K opportunity was that it allowed me to be an advisor and like have a role that was not like it was not a role that defined my life, where this would absolutely define what I'm doing.
At least you know you can step into the meeting and say, I want to be an advisor and see what happens.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good idea. Yeah. Okay, so we're nearing the end of this rest conversation. I think we can honestly say that this is one of the most difficult things to do, and that's why, our commentary around it is really raw and honest, which is like, we haven't figured it out how to rest properly. But we're at least
I'm gonna be very clear. My conclusion of that thing about resting is rest is not what matters. What matters is to figure out this clarity that brings you natural energy. And I don't know how I do it, but I know right now, and it's very clear in my mind that I'm starting to be at the end of that very, very tiring road that's uphill with only bad news every day, and figure out. And now I know, I feel it. I know I'm at the top. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I kind of feel like, whatever, like it's been 2 years of hell, or 1 year of hell. And the discipline, in a weird way, it's a weird discipline, because I don't think I think of it as like, oh, every day I'm going to do that from that time to that time. But I do kind of have some weird discipline, which I couldn't put in words, of keep pushing something somehow. And back, a year, it's hard to see, but if I look at my life a year ago and a year now, things start to be better. And I kind of feel like a lot of clarity right now. And I don't know, I feel, again, I think the best process is time, right? It's like you keep doing your stuff, like, it's normal, but the energy will come.
Teddy, any last kind of points there?
Sure. Yeah, I think want to mention the how do I put this? The rest part. It's fine by me. I wouldn't feel the guilt or the other negative thoughts or things when it comes to not working on things that you may work, or the FOMO, only by being surrounded by folks that I can talk with about work, basically. So if I'm in that environment, I cannot work for like seven days. But then if the 3 of us are in somewhere and we talk about work, but we don't actually work, that's rest to me.
Yes.
So that's
I agree
something
with that.
I want to,
Yeah, it's, again, we're not,
I mean, look, and
I don't want to say entrepreneurs are normal, but we're not, right?
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, like, again, like to most people, like resting is like holidays and doing nothing. But for entrepreneurs, I don't think rest really exists. I think we have this weird sickness of like, it's not that rest is impossible. It's just what we call rest for us is having this clarity and being like, into that thing. Like why for other people resting is to be, oh, I'm finally done with work. Fuck work. I'm gonna go on holidays, and that's rest for most of mankind.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that, and I don't think that's actually helpful for an entrepreneur. In fact, I think if you're for an entrepreneur that hasn't made what you want to do yet, like, or hasn't made the money that gives you the total financial freedom. I mean, we can talk about that in another episode of the crazies that we all know that have made insane amounts of money, and they took so much time off that they are searching for the meaning of existence, which we all do anyways, but they've taken it to an extreme, ayahuasca and stuff like that. But for me, how I feel on this topic is how the three of us feel, which is rest is basically the search for energy. And you can't trick your brain into thinking that you really can't trick your brain into thinking that
I can send you to Bali and do nothing for full 2 weeks, and then you'll come back super stressed because you'll be like, oh shit, I did nothing for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
That's the worst.
I couldn't even like describe it, but like the reality is like you have to get like for me, I have to get my butt out of the chair and fly to San Francisco, to New York, to Iceland, to wherever, to get my mind going and meeting people. Because if I sit too much here in this chair and think about the need for energy or the need for rest, I just get depressed. So I think from a conclusion of our rest step of the messy middle, it's not rest the way you think it's rest. If you want to put it in the view of the world, if you want to put it in the view of an entrepreneur,
No, to make it personal, because it's less abstract, I would just say double down on whatever makes you feel better, and that's your rest.
Yeah.
If it's meditation, be it. If it's reading books, be it. If it's playing video games, be it. If it's whatever it is, like, what it is, and double down on that. Like, I don't feel shame about it, even if it doesn't seem to be aligned with whatever you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And then you'll feel the energy. You'll know when things are, when it's what Franck is saying now. And I'm only beginning that journey, and hopefully it'll happen sooner than a year, but I don't know.
And before we go into Teddy's quote, I just want to add, and it's a weird thing, and I don't know how to explain it, right? Which is sometimes you're like, I should do this thing, but you realize you're putting yourself in a prison, because the beauty of entrepreneurship is freedom. And so whatever you're doing, it's your own freaking choice. And so it's so weird. Sometimes you're like, I'm tired and I'm doing this thing I don't want to do. But you have to realize it's yourself who are doing the thing you don't want to do. No one forced you to do that. It's weird.
Yeah. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
No one's forcing us to do this podcast.
Do you have a Zolter? Yeah, exactly. And it makes me feel good. Teddy, do you have a quote of the week? It was your turn.
Sure.
Zolter or...
Yeah. I do have one, which is maybe not related to rest, but it's in general success. So it's to pay respect to Charlie Munger, who passed away just yesterday. Probably one of the
R.I.P. Charlie,
among the most famous investors in the world. So on success, he says, the quote says, "It's so simple. You spend less than you earn, invest shrewdly, and avoid toxic people and toxic activities, and try to keep learning all your life, etc., etc. And do a lot of different gratification because you prefer life that way. And if you do all those things, you're almost certain to succeed. And if you don't, you're gonna need a lot of luck." So that's the quote.
Good.
I like that quote.
I like the quotes one too much.
Yep.
Simple life. Well, next week, let's see what we're gonna. We'll leave it to be a surprise next week. But thanks everybody.
Just have no idea.
Thanks,
Just have no idea what we're going to talk about.
No, I do have an idea. I have a couple ideas.
Okay.
I have a couple ideas.
All right.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Till next week.